YouTube friends, it's Trish here, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. And today I'm chatting Bachelor week 6. I missed week 5, and today actually recovering from being sick. So I probably sound a little weird. But the ibuprofen has kicked in because I sounded worse earlier. So there we are at that. I'm kind of kicking it back to how I started off the season because it felt a little bit more conversational and I kind of enjoyed it a little better. So I took notes while I was watching and just want to go through a few of, I guess, the highlights and chat. So just to touch on a little bit from week 5, the main takeaway over there, I suppose, is editing not having to try so hard to make Leia look like a villain. She basically picked up where Sydney left off. She was just very against Maria. Let's see. There were a few moments, like in the group date or whatever, or a few moments to sprinkle throughout the episode where it really felt like she thinks very highly of herself and she's very confident, which is not a terrible thing, like we should all try to be confident in ourselves. That's something I'm still working on. And the only thing is there is a fine line between confidence and cocky. And I think a lot of the way she phrased certain things just came off. I mean, she thinks very highly of herself. And where it turns into a not so great quality is she's definitely viewing herself better than, I mean, Maria in particular, but I kind of get the feeling she thinks of herself better as some of the girls over there. Anyway, so week 6. This episode started off so quietly and it was just piano music, and it wasn't necessarily sad music, but it wasn't upbeat and all excited and all of this kind of stuff, which you usually expect for the beginning of these episodes. But I think Joey is really starting to feel the weight of where they are in the process. And I mean, he started off the season by saying his worst fear is he's going to fall for someone and it's not going to be reciprocated. And so I think he is opening this episode sort of in his feelings about that, because I would assume that at this point in the process, real feelings are starting to develop, and especially for someone like Joey, who seems to really get along with most of the girls, if not all of the girls. It would be really difficult to hone in on what connections are stronger than others, or even to realize that there are some connections that are stronger than others. And so just a lot for him to process in the very beginning, and it bleeds a little bit into the group date that he has that day. So like they're in Montreal, which, oh my god, I've always wanted to visit. And they're starting off with a group date this week, and then there'll be 2 one-on-ones. So the group date sort of starts off the bat and they're doing all of these souvenir like things, and I think he started the group date by talking to the girls about how like he's sort of in his feelings today, which then I think makes all the ladies apprehensive, because one by one you just start seeing these ITMs of these girls talking about how they are having a difficult time watching him with other girls, which it's crazy. I feel like we've seen this in other seasons, but for some reason with Joey's season, it feels so much more serious, that a lot of these ladies like really like Joey. It's not just a passing fad or something like that. Like they're developing real feelings, and you have people like Kelsey A saying, I'm generally not an insecure. Like, girl, can you teach us how not to be insecure? Because, whew. oh, she's like, I'm generally not an insecure person, but I'm really finding it difficult to be over here and watching him with other ladies and having these moments and these connections. So, yeah, you're just like one after another. All the girls are basically saying the same thing. And it started last week with Jess being spiraling. Um, but yeah, now it's like the majority of the ladies. And that was an interesting thing to see. I mean, I feel like we're mid-season maybe around now, and it just feels so heavy. But I would I don't know, I assume that that's a good thing. Like it's real feelings that are involved, but that just means there's going to be a lot of broken hearts. So, oof. Oh, a highlight from the group date is Jen creates a moment with him while they're all making poutine. She adds some crazy ingredients and she has them take a bite, and then they have some banter back and forth, and all the other ladies are just sort of like, because it is sort of awkward because it's very like their energy feels, at least through the screen, very palpable. And so it's like they clearly have a connection, they have an easy camaraderie with each other, they riff on each other and stuff like that. And yeah, I would watch that and be a little bit like, okay. But Joey does mention in his ITM that like he notices that she does that. Later on in the episode, I think he makes a comment about how Jen continuously does that. Like she had an early one-on-one time, like a one-on-one date all day sort of thing. But since then she's been in these group situations and she still always manages to find some way to like do a certain look with him, or they giggle over something, or she makes some sort of comment, and that was something that he notices and appreciates about Jen. So it was cute. It was really cute actually. So the night portion of the group date does start off pretty tense, is sort of a strong word, but heavy, I suppose. Like Joey walks in and can feel that the ladies are in some sort of mood. Yeah, that wasn't for this date. But for this date, like he does notice that there's some sort of mood. He starts to go through his one-on-one times with the ladies, and like he's just hearing from pretty much all of them that it's starting to get pretty difficult for them to watch him have connections with other ladies when they feel like they have a connection with him. So I just like, I couldn't imagine being in this sort of situation because Joey is such a like heck of a man that most people I think would easily fall for. And especially when you're in a situation like this, he's the only option and all these ladies are going after him and stuff. It would be hard not to want to be like the last girl standing, I suppose. He checks in with Caitlin. He lets her know that he's like, he likes what he's seen so far and he's excited to get to know more about her. And then he reassures Kelsey A and lets her know that he has no doubts about the connection that they have. With Lexi, she wants to discuss timing and how he views like his timeline. Okay, an engagement happens at the end of the show. What does his timeline look after that? And like he opens up about he's seen 2 to 3 year engagement, and then a couple of years of marriage, and then thinking about bringing kids in. And this sort of doesn't go along with what Lexi is talking about in her ITM beforehand. For her, she's wanting a quicker engagement and to have kids sooner. And she opens up about, at least in her ITM at this point, that with her health condition, with having endo, she has a quicker timeline. And I believe she's 30 or 31. So she's very much in the like I want to find my person and get married and start trying to have kids. And, like, as she'll say later in the episode, neither is wrong. It's just like they want different things at this point. So she's sort of realizing that and needing to take time to process. I am a little curious on, like, I don't want to say this as a critique, but I'm just sort of curious on why maybe this wasn't something that was discussed during her one-on-one date with him. I believe that was last week. They went to Malta and like explored the city, had a great one-on-one time at in the evening, which is where she did open up about, which I guess like that's already a heavy topic. So then to bring up, so what's your like proposed timeline of events, might be like a bit much, and maybe she just wanted to enjoy like having that moment, being able to open up to someone about this. He created such a safe and like comforting environment which allowed her to open up about it. So I guess she just wanted to revel in that night, and that's why she didn't bring up this timeline. But yeah, she's I think she articulated it well. And it's just something that now she's gonna have to think about. Let's see. Next is Jen tells Joey that she is falling for him, and he tells her that like it makes him really happy to hear that. I think he's just really happy to hear it from, because she's not the only one in this episode who's going to tell him that she's falling for him. So I think it's just really reassuring for him to hear that, and he's not really thinking far past that in what that means, and that if you don't feel the same way, you're gonna have to break someone's heart, which he does later on in the episode, but we'll get there. I said Jen. I meant Jess tells Joey that she's falling for him. And oh my goodness. I have Jen and Jess right next to each other, and so I read the wrong one. Jen tells Joey that she's falling for him, and that made him really happy to hear. Jess tells Joey that she's falling for him, and so it does happen over here. He just doesn't picture it with Jess, which like hurts him because he's basically doing to her what he is so fearful of happening to him, in that she just opened up and expressed her feelings in such a like straightforward way, and just after that he's having to tell her that he's not on the same page, and he tells her goodbye. And out on the sidewalk, Jess asked him if she did anything, and he's like, no, because it's not ever, sometimes it's just not a fit. And it's not that anyone did anything wrong or whatever. It's just the feeling. And yeah, Joey just he didn't feel it. So it's okay, Jess. You'll be on Paradise. But Joey was wrecked when he came back to the hotel after she had left. You see him sort of like with producers, I guess, or something, and like it hurt that he had to do that to someone who was just being so open and lovely. This is why I'm just like, I could never be the lead, because the amount of like hearts potentially that you'll be breaking because you're just not feeling the same, or you have stronger connections with someone else, and that's just bound to happen. I just So it was here especially where I sort of made a comment saying something about this season feels more serious, and it really is, just because there are so many ladies that have genuine feelings for Joey, and it's tough. But anyway, we are moving on to Kelsey T's one-on-one date. So finally, we get to see some time between her and Joey. I think up until now, we have seen a glimmer or just like a small sort of moment here and there. And that's from the beginning of the season. So we definitely had an inkling that she's someone to look out for, but we hadn't actually seen thorough time between the two of them, except for in the last episode or the episode before it. I believe we saw some one-on-one time on one of the cocktail nights or maybe a group date night or something like that. And they sort of showed a bit more over there. But anyway, now they can spend a whole day together. And first it is Cirque du Soleil training, which I was hella jealous about. It looks so cool. I would be terrified, but it'd be so much fun. And let's see, Kelsey T like is all up for it. They're both a little nervous, but they're excited. But then Joey gets really dizzy and continuously is having to like do those spins, and it's just not helping the situation. So poor guy. It was just, I actually, so I've never tried that kind of spinning, but from a dance background, whenever we did pirouettes or something like that where you're just doing a whole bunch of spins, you're supposed to spot. And so like each turn your head snaps back and looks at the same spot each time, and that's supposed to sort of help you keep grounded and not get dizzy. And I don't know what the equivalent that is for like hanging on a hoop or just like on this rope from the ceiling, and if there's a way to do that while you're also partnered up with someone. So yeah, I don't know. We then see a conversation between Lexi and Maria where she's sort of opening up about how she had the discussion with him the night before and heard his timeline, which Maria also looked a little perturbed to hear his timeline of events. And I mean, I think Maria is like 28 or 29, but it still feels relatively young enough that I would assume that most people, like Lexi's got this whole health condition, so it makes sense that she's more thinking in an expedited way, but so far that we know, Maria doesn't have anything like that, so I would think that, I mean, I don't know, it sounds reasonable to me. 2 to 3 year engagement, get married, a couple of years of marriage, and then think about having kids. I mean, that's how I used to think about it. I mean, now I'm older too, so I probably should be thinking about it more expedited. um, but I've always had the same sort of idea. Maybe not 2 to 3 year engagement, but he is 28, so like, I don't know. I never really thought into details of how long of an engagement, but I used to did think about I want a couple of years of marriage before having kids. The focus is more on Lexi and how this affects how she thought about it, and it's difficult because it's not that she doesn't feel a connection with Joey. I think, and that's what she's struggling with, is that there is a connection over here. So is it a matter of just timing and unfortunate, sort of like how they say, right person, wrong time? And I think Lexi's sort of coming to terms with that might possibly be what's happening right now. And at that moment, she was open to discussing it further with him after like processing. But we go back to Kelsey T, and it's her night portion of the date, and she opens up about how she used to have the strongest relationship with her father growing up, but then suddenly it completely changed, and they hadn't talked for years, and he just wasn't present in her life. And Joey, asks what it was, and she opens up that she comes from a very religious family and it was expected of her to follow in the religion. And she doesn't go into details, so we're not sure, like, follow in the sense of just practice the religion, or maybe follow in the type of way like priest or pastor or something like that, and she just didn't see her life going that way, or we don't know the details on that. But her takeaway from having that experience is she now has trust issues with men in particular, but I think in general she kind of has trust issues, because how can a relationship that was so close just suddenly run cold because of something like this. And it sounds like now they are trying to build some sort of relationship. They'll go see a movie or they'll check in with each other here and there, but it's not the same. And what hurts her is that her dad has missed so much of her life. She can't fathom why. And I mean, that is just a tough, tough thing. I can't imagine, because like I opened up at one point about how like me and my dad don't have a great relationship, but we never had a good relationship. I never felt enough or wanted, actually, to some extent. But anyway, like that is my experience. But for Kelsey T, she did have a relationship with her father. She had a very close relationship. And for it to suddenly change like that, like I feel like that would be harder to comprehend, to grasp, to understand. It's like, I don't know, it's kind of my viewpoint on how there are some parents where when their child comes out to them, they suddenly disown their child. Like, why? I just, that's something that I can't comprehend, and I don't mean to say this in any sort of offensive way, but it's just, how can you bring a child into this world, raise that child with so much love and devotion, and they choose to, they don't even choose. That's the thing. In this situation, it's not even a choice, but like in other situations, they choose to follow and do something different in their life. And it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just a different thing. And suddenly it's like you want nothing to do with them. Like, that's something I'll never understand, and I can't imagine how Kelsey T is walking through her life and trying to, having to come to terms with her reality, because it just is what it is. My heart goes out to her. But they end the night, and Joey obviously offers her the rose, and she accepts. And oh my god, then Claire de Lune starts to play. There's actually a violinist, and they're playing Claire de Lune, and there's this I'm assuming a Cirque du Soleil artist that's like spinning and all of this kind of stuff, and it's beautiful. But I just, oh my god, have an orchestra playing Cirque du Soleil, I mean, Claire de Lune, what a dream. And just to like listen to that in a space like that, beautiful. Okay, anyway, moving on. Just writing a bucket list, basically. I gotta add that. So Maria's one-on-one date, it starts off so fun. I mean, he picks her up in this like cool looking limo. They're sitting in the back, they're cracking jokes. They just have such an easy going, like, it's interesting because him and Jen have a similar relationship but in a different way. Like Maria's more feisty and flirty, and Jen is more like banter and cracking jokes, I think is how I would say. Like they're just minutely different from each other, but it's just, they're so cute. And it's just so easy. And it's not one-sided. Like they're both very, anyway, with each other. It's just and I wrote a note over here where I'm like, okay, wow, who is Joey going to pick? Because he has pretty distinct connections with most of these ladies. And it's slightly different type of connection with each lady. So it's like, it's, none of them are bad. Ooh. Oh my god. I don't know. I don't know. During their night portion, he did like vocalize that he noticed that she had some moments towards the end there, and he wasn't really sure where she was at. Like, sort of mentally, I guess, over there. And Maria just sort of opens up, and like she is really developing feelings for him, and the way he makes her feel is just so lovely because she feels completely accepted for who she is. And I mean, it's a beautiful moment and it's just so cute, and I love them both so much. So yeah, she lets him know that she's falling for him, and he is so very happy to hear that. So, okay, now Lexi decides to go to his hotel room and have this conversation, and it actually ends up not being so much a discussion, but more so she has made up her mind that it's not gonna work for where she is right now in her life. And she voices to him that it's not that either of us, like any of us, is wrong. It's just she needs to move a little quicker. And it's pretty tough for Joey to accept. It's not like he's going to tell her, no, you have to stay, but it's still sort of something that he didn't expect to happen. He, especially after their Malta one-on-one date, really did feel a connection with Lexi and actually kind of saw her as being his potential wife. And now it's like that will never be explored to see if it could even get to that point. And he takes it hard, like it's difficult, but he has to say goodbye. I think the nice thing though is that they do both talk about they did feel a real connection. So it's not that it was nothing. And, that might be difficult to move on from, but at least it was real. So it wasn't one sided, but that's tough. Really tough. I think he was hoping to talk more the following week to see if, I don't know if he meant this as see if he could get there, like where she is, but I don't know. I think he was still processing. So it's just difficult. That then leads us into the cocktail party where he actually opens up to the ladies. Like he walks in and he's just like, hey, I mean, guys, I am scared. I'm terrified. I'm scared that I'm going to fall for someone and it's not going to be what they want and that they'll leave. Or that he isn't enough. I think that was one thing that I didn't mention from the beginning of the episode when he was having a hard time and he was in his feelings. That was, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot to say this. Like, he made this comment about how, like, he wants to find someone who is going to accept him for who he is, but he doesn't even fully know who that is yet because he's still figuring himself out. Which is such like, wow, way to have like really good self-awareness in that. I mean, I feel like as humans, we're constantly a work in progress. Like, you should be changing and evolving throughout your life because of your life experiences. They shape who you are. And so you're always being molded. Like, it's never you're done growing, but I get what he's saying because I went through a period of time in my early mid, even some of my late 20s where I just felt like I was going on all of these dates but feeling so very insecure because I felt like I was going on dates with these people who like had their life in order. They were like working in this career right out of college in like the field that they had studied, and life was going good, and now they were just sort of living life, and there I was still figuring out I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. And I have a better handle on it now. I have like goals in place, things that I'm working towards, but at that time I didn't have any of that. And so it very much was, I had moments where I'd be like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I going on dates and trying to get in a relationship when I don't know who I am? And how can you enter a relationship and give yourself into that connection when you don't really know who you are? And so it's a crazy thing for him to be figuring out about himself, and especially through a process like this. And that's not to say that you can't find yourself while you have a partner. People grow together. There are tons of couples where that happens and it's great. So I'm hoping for the best for Joey. And, I hope he'll grasp that we're all trying to figure ourselves out. Like, that's just part of life. And the more you get out there and the more you live, the more you figure that out. So, rooting for you, Joey. But the cocktail party starts and he does voice out his fear to the ladies. And so most of the ladies start off their conversation with him that evening, sort of bringing that up and being like, you don't need to worry about that. You're great. You check in. You're so attentive. You listen. Like, you're so reassuring and validating. Like, you're great. Like, you don't need to worry about it. But then, like, by the preview for next week, he might have to worry about it a little bit. But anyway, Caitlin enters her one-on-one conversation. You hear her in the ITMs talking about how, in all of my conversations with Joey, he is always reassuring and complimenting me. And I noticed that I don't really do that for him. Just like, I mean, great to take note of. We're learning. And so that's something that she wanted to do at her one-on-one time, which he really appreciated. Daisy, like, started off serious and as if she was going to bring up something that was going to sort of be a deal breaker, and then turns out that she just wanted a foot massage and is expecting a few a night. So they have a fun time. Jen takes him for a piano lesson, but the piano happens to be in the room where all the ladies are sitting. So it's a little awkward because all of the ladies are already in their feelings about how they really like him and he's having these connections with other girls, and now they're watching his one-on-one time right in front of them. So Rachel sort of has the same idea as Caitlin in that, like, he's always reassuring her, let me throw a little bit of that back at you. And it's interesting because she starts off her one-on-one time being like a little snarky. She's just like, thanks for that serenade out there. Which he clocks because she's just sort of like, I'll stop. He's like, nope, it's okay. You can, like, be yourself, call me out. But then, like, when she's talking about how, I know that this is something that you're still going to continue to worry about regardless of me saying this, but, like, you don't need to worry. He took notice that she noticed that about him. So they are in tune with each other. I feel like they get each other. And she had her one-on-one date in week 5 where dancing in Spain. I was so jealous. I was so jealous. That is how I would love to travel. I mean, I want to hit some cultural events. I want to learn how to dance. I want to eat the food. I want to visit the most beautiful nature spot in that area. Yeah, I was so jealous. But anyway, they had a lovely one-on-one time. Yeah, connected a lot. So it's interesting over here to see that she's making these comments, and, like, he notices something about her and she notices something about him. Or notices isn't the right word. They're, like, vocalizing that, yeah, I know this about you, like, already. So, but anyway, now it's the rose ceremony, and Jesse or somebody removes the veil off of the podium, and there's only 3 roses, and there's 5 girls. So that was kind of insane to wrap my head around, but it ends up being that Caitlin and Leia are going home. So I didn't really talk about Leia this episode. I mean, she didn't really do a heck of a lot except for more of what she was doing last episode, which was sort of making these comments here and there. She was thinking very highly of herself, and it was just sort of more of that. And that's the thing, like, we never really see one-on-one time between her and Joey, and when we do, it's like it feels kind of superficial, or it feels like patronizing a little bit when she was talking about the Maria piece and being like, it's okay though, like I know you're making the right decisions for you, and like all this kind of stuff. So anyway, I don't know why I'm trying to like hate on her right now. She's literally going home. But Caitlin feels like she didn't really have enough time to fully show herself, which is unfortunate. Like, she's only been in group date situations. She hadn't had a one-on-one time. So I get what she's feeling over there, and that really sucks. And Leia, I mean, editing again. They are really just like not trying that hard to make her look like she's contrived, basically, because in her, when she's in the car, she's sitting there in silence for a while, and she's sort of looking down, and it almost feels like it was harkening. Sorry, it's like hitting me right now what it was reminding me of. So actors, when they go in for auditions, when they start their piece, first they like introduce themselves, talk about, or just like list off who they're represented by, what part they're auditioning for, and then they take a moment where they look down, they take a breath, and it's supposed to be a moment where you center yourself basically into the character. And this moment just kind of had that feeling. And I'm not saying that that's what she was doing, because I don't know. I mean, because she does eventually really tear up and has tears that fall, and she's very soft spoken over here, and she's not like vindictive or snarky or nasty or anything like that. I think she's just sort of, I think her only comment that maybe like even has a hint of anything like that is when she says that like, I hope that he will find his person, and I just hope that he won't have any regrets. And then and then a producer is like, "Do you have any regrets?" Silence. There was no answer from Leia. So I'm sure we will see her in Paradise. I'm actually so curious on how the Woman Tell All episode will go this year. Because in the past, when there has been some drama moments, the way they end up bringing it up on the Woman Tell All episode, or at least what they edit together, like either brushes over or really like diminishes the strength of what a moment it was in the show, and it just wasn't satisfying then to watch the Woman Tell All. So I really hope they don't do that this time. I really want to hear from Leia and Sydney. Why? Like, why did you just hate Maria? And that's all Maria was asking the entire time. Like, what did I do? Why do you not like me? Ah, so that was that episode. Yep, that was week 6. I like this episode, but it was very heavy. Like the first half of it especially was just very heavy, because I don't think we've ever seen this many connections that feel as real as they do. And so it's just really tough for these ladies who had one-on-one time with him, had like these days with him, like a day, the one-on-one date, day, but would have that special time with him, connect so far with him during that time to now be in a group with each other and seeing him interact with other girls and having to like wrap your head around that it's like, oh, it's not just me. Oh my god, my heart goes out to all of them because he really does have, I mean, mostly a group of great girls. And I mean, the others, they're growing. It's the nicest thing I think I can say. The nicest way to put it. I just think that it's very telling, like, who these final group of girls is, you know? And yeah, I don't know who he's gonna pick because I see strong connections with a lot of them. I mean, I think he really likes Jen. I think he really likes Maria. I think he really likes Rachel. I think he really likes Kelsey T. I think he really likes Kelsey A. And I think that's like most of them, right? I mean, who else is there? I'm blanking. Anyway, so yeah, that was week 6 of The Bachelor, and I hope you enjoyed whatever this was. And I think that this is the format that works best for me, so I hope you guys like it too. I'd love it to turn conversational, so write comments down below. Who do you think he's going to end up with? Because I have no clue. Because I like him with a lot of the girls. So it's just, I think my favorites though are Maria. Maybe it's just Maria. Who are the other girls? Oh, my iPad isn't here. Maria is kind of the main one that's coming to mind right now. Even though I know he has connections with a lot of the other girls, the connection with Maria is kind of my favorite. And then Jen, close second. But sometimes I feel sort of friendly vibes, I guess. Yeah, they feel like they just could chill and be fun. Whereas with Maria, there's still like the romantic piece tangled in that. So I think Maria might be my like, if I were trying to pick one of these amazing ladies, Maria. Yeah. Sorry, I'm really blanking. I'm trying to think. Oh, I do really like Kelsey A and him. I do really like their connection too. So Maria and Kelsey A. They're cute. Anyway, I think that's about it. So, toodles.